Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Source. Again, my name is Kurt P. White, and I'm here with my co-host today, Dr. Marianne Hoyle. Hi, Marianne. How are you
Hi.
today?
Good. Pleasure to be here today.
Oh, awesome. Absolutely. And we are here today, this week. The Source is going to be talking all about strategy. Our weekly winning word for this week is strategy. So tune in and thank you for joining us. And welcome back, everybody. I hope your day is going well. I'm here again with my co-host, Dr. Marianne Hoyle, and unfortunately, Brian couldn't join us again this month, but we wish him well. I think he said he was out in North Carolina somewhere.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but we certainly miss you, Brian, and hope you can make it back next month. And we certainly, one of the first things I wanted to mention, we're excited here at I've Decided this week especially because Saturday is our first motivational and leadership
Yes.
conference,
Yes.
which is an all-day event at Weaver Ridge. And I know Brian is at least going to be back before Saturday because he's going to be one of our speakers.
Presenters, yes.
Yes, so safe
Yes.
travels to you, Brian, and we can't wait to see you on Saturday. But
A lot of people are looking forward to you listening.
and
Yes.
I've heard part of his story, and it's fantastic. So,
Yes.
and we've got a lot of other great speakers, and a shout out too, since we're talking about the conference, which again Saturday, February 1st. All of our business resources. If you haven't registered yet, there still is time. You can do it online. But I think Kim said that by this time she already sent in the meals. So
I think she
if you want a
did.
ham sandwich, you may get turkey. But there's still don't let that stop you. You still time to register. But all of our business resources will be there. It's a great opportunity. We've got great speakers and a chance for everybody to meet our business partners at I've Decided.
Right, and where is it going to be at again?
At Weaver Ridge. Yep,
At Weaver Ridge.
At Weaver Ridge, Saturday morning. You want to get there somewhere between, well, a little before 8 o'clock. Yep,
right,
because I
right.
think we officially kick everything off at 9.
I've
So-
seen people come to the door before and
Oh, yeah.
be welcome. So,
Sure. So please,
Yeah,
if you
if
get
you
an
wanna come
opportunity, come out because, again, this is our first conference for 2020. And our theme for the whole year, and especially this conference to kick off, is there's always more. No matter what you're doing in life, no matter where you're at, whatever goal or dream you're pursuing, it seems like if you really think about it, there's always more.
exactly.
And like I said at the start of the program, we want to kind of focus as the source a little bit about our weekly winning word and how that all fits in as far as strategy.
Right, as far as our life, and
Mm-hmm.
I've decided, and yes.
Strategy, if you look at your journal, we've got the definition in there as a strategy is a plan of action intended to bring about a specific goal.
Right.
We talk about, and that's one of the mission of I've Decided is your success. And then we go on to say we want to help you achieve your goals and dreams no matter what they are.
Right.
So there's a couple things that kind of stood out for me when I read that definition is the word action, a plan of action, and specific goal. You have to be intentional about your goals,
Correct.
no matter
Yep.
what the goal is in life, no matter whether it's a large one or a lifelong career goal, whatever goal. I thought it was interesting when I read the weekly winning resource this week. There was an article out there by Forbes, which kind of laid out 5 steps that you should kind of follow if you're putting together a strategy. Mm-hmm. Me having a financial background, and we were talking a little bit before the show, before recording, when you hear the word strategy, a lot of times people's mind automatically jumps to financials
Right.
or putting together a financial strategy, and which is absolutely true.
It's
And,
one of
and it's,
the areas in our lives.
and the
Yes.
reason why I brought that up is a lot of times when you bring that up, people shy away or run. And there's, oh man, I don't want to get involved in put.
It
You
can
know,
be a scary thing.
it can be overwhelming at first,
Yes.
especially when you're talking about money. But the important thing is, like we said, is no matter what your goal is, no matter what you're working on, putting a strategy in place is always a good idea.
Right.
It's going to make you focus. It's going to make you be accountable, those types of things. And the article that was mentioned in the weekly running resource, if you don't mind, I'm going to at least go through the 5 steps that it mentioned. We can discuss them a little bit and then
Okay.
maybe give some people some ideas so it may not be as daunting a task when they want to
Right.
sit down and put a strategy together. There were
Okay.
there are 5 steps, and the first one I'll go ahead and read them first. Step number 1 is determine where you are. Number 2 is identify what's important. 3, define what you want to achieve. 4, determine who is accountable. And 5, review, review, review.
Right.
So, starting out with step number 1, Marianne, I said determine where you are in the process. And
Right. I think that's just being real about where you are and being truthful with yourself and being okay with it so you have a good starting place.
right, and I think that's neat how you phrase that because a lot of times, personally, when depending on what goal or what dream we're chasing, where we think we are might be totally different than where we
We are.
actually are.
Right.
And so there's some steps that you can take. For example, if you're looking at a new business per se, and you kind of know what you want to accomplish or where you think you are, well, do some market research. See what the other businesses that might be similar to yours are doing in your community.
True.
What are the competitors? Who are your competitors? Do those types of things as you're going into this, putting together a strategy process. And I think that's a good idea, or a way that you can help decide, well, gee, where am I? you know?
Yes. And I even think that you can do it on a personal level too, whether it's your health or relationships or more movement
Oh,
and
absolutely.
things like that, having a strategy, having a plan. I'm thinking about how many New Year resolutions people out there are still New Year's resolutions because if they didn't have a strategy, it's probably they've already
Dropped it.
or not moved very far.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we're slowly approaching. I don't know where January went, but
Right.
there are always those rules of thumb of how many days does it take to become a habit. And one of them I've heard as few as 20. I've heard as many as 60. No matter where you're going to fall, where you were mentioning the New Year's resolutions, we're getting to that time of the year where if people haven't stayed consistent
Right.
with following those, using
plan.
their plan or their strategy, well, it's probably not becoming
Right.
a habit for them. So, yep, step
And
one.
that's a good point you bring up is I think part of strategy is that consistency, showing up every day.
Exactly, contribute.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so determine where you are. The next one we said was identify what's important. And the note that I put here is, what's your vision? Where do you see you moving, whatever it is? What the strategy needs to have, like a future, a plan for the future, or a vision. That's to me, and once you determine what that is, let's sit down, and when you identify what's important, the word that comes to mind for me is prioritize.
Yep.
So
Because there's a lot of things that are important.
exactly, and
Yes.
again, we want to eliminate some of the daunting factor and the feelings of being overwhelmed, and try to make it more of a simple process. And
Right.
I always try to, when I was working with clients before, if they're putting together a business plan or whatever, and they're working on their strategy, just leave it when you're doing your priority. Just do immediate, medium, and low.
Right. I was thinking three.
Just use 3.
Yep.
Don't get any more complicated than that. And
You're probably, if you have more than 3, you're overwhelmed.
Exactly. You're overthinking it.
Yeah.
And there's some things that you're going to find that you think are immediate needs, but they're really not. There's some other things that probably should take precedence.
Right.
By the same token, when you mark a task or something you want to accomplish as part of the strategy as being low priority, that doesn't mean it doesn't need to be done at all.
Right.
You still need to give some attention to the parts of the strategy that you've prioritized as being low. And eventually, as you track all of these things, it becomes easier to monitor if you prioritize doing it, just like we say, using
Yep.
3. The next step then we had listed was define what you must achieve. The note I had here is, okay, well, how are we going to address these priorities? What is it that the actual task is, and who's going to be responsible for it? What kind of timeline is involved? Set a specific task saying, in order for us to move forward, we need to make sure that the phone line's installed by next Monday. Or,
Yes.
and if we're using that as an example, all right, who's calling the phone company? Have we made an appointment? Is somebody going to be there at the location to let them in? All those types of things, you want to make sure that you define what it is that needs to be achieved and make sure all the pieces are in place to make that happen,
As a priority.
depending on where they're at in
Yeah.
the priority list. Exactly. So that's what I think about when they're saying define what it is that you want to achieve. And
Yep.
using an extreme example is it achievable? You got to answer those questions too when you're putting together a strategy.
And if it is achievable, is it long lasting?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen things, be achievable, but the long lasting part or whatever was not
Right.
part of the strategy.
Yeah, and that's a great point.
Yeah,
Part of longevity is maintenance.
right.
Once you put something together, that's fine and dandy, but who's going to take care of it?
Yep.
If you get back to installing a printer, well, that's great, but when it runs out of ink, where's that going to come from? Do we keep an inventory? Those are just examples of making sure you keep things moving along should they need be. Fourth one was determine who is accountable. We alluded to that a little bit, and Kim always refers to them as accountability buddies, accountability buddies.
Accountability buddies,
Sure.
yes.
But there's got to be people, and I'm a big one to say, putting together a strategy, even writing it down. A lot of it you might feel like you have to do on your own, but we can't ever achieve, especially a large goal, by ourselves.
Right.
Bring in the people that are going to help you, and
it's okay to ask for help.
oh, absolutely.
It's good to ask for help.
And one of the things that came to mind too there when you determine who's accountable is some of the best laid plans or strategies are, if this is the goal I want to achieve, well, surround yourself with experts. Make sure part of your strategy can be finding people who can help you the most.
Yes.
And that's okay. That kind of goes along with asking for help, and it's okay. The last one, and this was huge, and when I read it, I kind of chuckled a little bit, was review. So often, I've been a part of a management type situation where we're hammering out our strategic plan for the year, and the misnomer is, or what we shouldn't be thinking is once we type it out and print it, we throw it in the desk and we're done. When you're putting together a strategy, no matter what it is you're working towards, it's got to be ever changing. It's got to be a dynamic document that you refer back to. I can't say how often, but as much as possible.
I like to think of it as you're always making a good thing a better.
Exactly. Yeah,
all the time.
And what did you say when I walked in? I can't remember the word you used, but what you learned about strategy was you needed to always like
Be adaptable.
Be adaptable.
If
Exactly.
it's not working and it's obvious it's not working,
Yeah.
it's okay to
It's
change.
time to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know,
Get a different
'cause the
direction.
definition of
Yeah.
insanity, what is it? You keep trying the same thing over and over again, thinking it's going to have a different result.
Yeah.
You know,
Not gonna happen.
Don't drive yourself
Yeah.
crazy. Be open and adaptable to make changes.
Yes, and I even think sometimes to allow some things to happen. Sometimes I think we push things and want things, and sometimes if we're a little patient and wait for the timing, you seem to run into a pattern
Right.
that's part of your strategy with sometimes without even trying.
Well, and what came to mind there, as you mentioned that, which is a great point, is as far as timing is concerned. You know, sometimes we're not in control of timing.
Right.
You know, and I always get a chuckle too, or think about it's God's timing, and sometimes it's His plan. And no matter how hard we're working down here to try to make a plan or strategy come to fruition, He's up there giggling because He's like, no, it's not time yet. You know, so you got.
Or you haven't quite got it right yet.
Or the flip side of it is giving you a little nudge and say, "Come on, you were supposed
Yes.
to." You know, it's either way, but it's a
Yeah.
point well taken. You know that you
Yeah.
just gotta be patient,
Adaptable.
but continue to move forward. And
Yep.
the word that review. I looked up the definition of being dynamic, and dynamic is capable of action. And I like that because we go back to the definition too. It's a plan of action. And when it comes to faith, I always believe too that, you know, faith and action go together. You have to have both.
Right.
So you can't just sit there and rest on your faith and hope and dream and wish. You know, you got to take that first step. You got to put, like Kim always says, put the stake in the ground and say, this is what I'm going to do, and then be committed. And sit down and start out again, whatever it is you're working on, put a strategy together. It doesn't have to be complicated.
No.
This 5-step process, which I thought was interesting again, and it's been great talking to you about it, is it's relatively simple. You know, you're not answering a whole lot of questions there, but at least gives you a direction and a place to start and know who it is that you need to ask for help.
Yes. And I think that's a good point. It's a good starting point.
Sure.
You know, because we're always going to be reviewing.
Yeah. It's part of putting that stake in the
Right.
ground for sure. And
Right.
the quote that we had in our planner is, "A vision without a strategy remains an illusion." Which I thought was great because, as we mentioned, you know, you can sit and have all the faith and all the prayer and all the hope, you know, but unless you actually put that strategy in motion and have the vision and follow up with
I
it,
think do action.
it's always going to be an illusion.
You have to have an action. You have to,
Amen.
even if it's not exactly where you were thinking, you got up and you got something from it and you did something.
Yep.
Put yourself out there.
And that's why we have all of our business resources,
Yep.
our community members that are part of I've Decided. We are all here to help one another achieve whatever it is that we're working on. When you know what that action is and you need help, we've got people that you can lean on to help put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And so if you have not checked out I've Decided yet, please go out to our website, ivedecided.org. You can easily sign up as a community member right there online. If you're interested in joining us as a business resource, we'd love to talk to you. And I think with that, our time has flown by.
Already?
So, thank you so much,
Yes.
Marianne, for
Thank you.
being here with us today. Brian, we
Thank you.
hope we can join us, and we can't wait to see you this Saturday.
Yeah, looking forward
at the
to
conference.
Saturday. Woohoo.
All
Please
right.
come.
Yep. Have a wonderful day.
Yep. Bye.